Facebook, Google, and Twitter are breaking democracy. They spread fake news, their advertising systems are bigoted, their media platforms massively profited from recent elections across the globe. These are all critical issues, but they are all symptoms of a larger, more dangerous problem. Facebook and Google have far too much power. They command billions of users. They collect vast sums of intimate details about every internet user, which makes them billions by targeting us with ads and controlling the flow of our information. But they are accountable to no one. Let's use the 2016 US election as an example. According to Facebook, several hundred Russian accounts spent $100,000 buying Facebook ad posts, which were shown to at least 10 million people. Now compare $100,000 to $80 million, which is how much the Donald Trump campaign data team reportedly paid Facebook in the months before the election. That bought them over 17 billion views and almost 40 million link clicks, without even counting the endless echoes of those interactions. Facebook, Google, and Google's YouTube employees also worked inside Trump campaign headquarters to help further the goals of their best customer.
Their staff embedded inside our offices.
What?
Yeah, Facebook employees would show up for work every day in our offices.
Facebook employees showed up at the Trump headquarters?
Google employees and Twitter employees.
They were helping us, I mean, they were basically our kind of hands-on partners.
Because I'd ask them to be Republicans, and I would talk to them.
Oh, you only wanted Republicans?
I wanted people who supported Donald Trump from their companies.
Most ads are bought programmatically through our apps and website without an advertiser ever speaking to someone at Facebook.
When you're pumping in millions and millions of dollars to these social platforms, you're going to get white glove treatment.
This is the problem. Any group, corporation, candidate, or government can spend an unlimited amount of money on Facebook or Google to influence your perception. And due to Silicon Valley's own active avoidance, there's no way for us to know about it. Facing extreme public and governmental pressure, Mark Zuckerberg now claims he's going to change some of Facebook's policies to disclose some sources of the political ads that will continue to be shown on Facebook.
I want to share the steps that we're taking to protect election integrity and make sure that Facebook is a force for good in democracy.
In the United States, political ads on other media platforms such as television or radio are primarily regulated by the Federal Election Commission, the FEC, but internet companies answer only to themselves. For some help explaining this, we turn to former FEC chairperson Ann Ravel.
I raised the issue of the internet in 2014, and I raised the issue of Russian money in 2015. There are so many ways that people either can be influenced and that money flows throughout our campaign finance system without any accountability whatsoever to the American public. And all of those things are scandalous, they're scary about our electoral process, and what they're leading to is a small number of people who have total ability to influence policy in our country. And that's the real scandal.
Despite the word election in its name, the FEC doesn't have anything to do with calculating the votes, but the FEC tracks who finances campaigns and the specifics of how that money is spent. You know those disclaimers at the end of campaign TV ads?
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Those disclaimers are required by law as a clue to help you determine who paid for the creation and airing of the ads. Disclaimers also clarify that what the viewer just saw was in fact advertising. However, online political ads are not required to disclose any of that. Not to the audience, not to regulators.
The electoral process is meant to be that the donors and the expenditures of campaigns and of campaign committees of any sort, whether they be independent committees or committees of the candidates, are supposed to be disclosed. The premise of the Federal Election Commission being set up was to enforce disclosure because there was none.
Facebook and Google actually lobbied and petitioned against online political ad regulation. In 2010, Google asked the FEC for permission to show political ads without visible disclaimers. Facebook officially supported Google's efforts, and in 2011 filed its own request. Unfortunately, because of the partisan gridlock at the FEC, both companies prevailed.
What they said was that the banner ads, the small ads on Facebook, were too small to accommodate the disclaimers that are required in newspaper ads and TV ads. Facebook is not held to that standard. They said because of the small items exemption that they should be exempted from having to have disclosure on their ads. It was, in my view, improperly granted. That was meant for campaign buttons that are very tiny and you can't link to anything, when in fact you can link to a landing page. Anybody could have done it, and you could have done it then.
Appointed by President Obama, Anne resigned in early 2017 out of pure frustration, partially because her repeated warnings were ignored. In 2014, she identified the lack of internet regulation as a huge opportunity for abuse, when she suggested the FEC meet with technology experts who could explain the potential dangers. She was swiftly and unjustly targeted by online trolls, hate mailers, and by her own colleague at the FEC.
So explain, if you would, this idea that the FEC ought to regulate expressions of political belief online.
My fellow commissioner, Lee Goodman, went on Fox News and referred to my statement and said that I was like the Chinese censorship board and that I was trying to shut down the internet. And he actually went on Fox News twice.
And we don't regulate speech, we just regulate large expenditures for speech.
Yes.
Of course, spread out to Breitbart and Drudge and The Blaze and the Washington Examiner, right-wing and conservative TV and radio stations. Videos made of me like Hitler trying to shut down the internet, death threats, misogynists said that I was, George Soros's whore, unbelievable tweets and emails, letters, thousands of them. I still have them. I found them to be so heartwarming.
Again, there were no regulations being proposed by Anne. She merely wanted to discuss the wildly outdated exemptions for online political ads, exemptions which predated the social media age. But only conservative media outlets and commentators were intensely interested, which makes us wonder, why was Anne being targeted by right-wing provocateurs?
And they've got the head of the Federal Elections Commission talking bad about Drudge, saying she's intimidated and got death threats because Drudge linked to an article about her saying that she'd like to shut the Drudge Report down. The poor baby.
They understood what the future of campaigning is, and that what they wanted to do was have a totally deregulated system. I actually even mentioned that to Lee Goodman one day. We were at a FEC conference in Chicago and walking down the street, and I said, you know that what I said in that was really not anything of any major proportion. And your response was really about just deregulating. And he said, yeah, you're right.
After a decade of unsupervised playtime, social media companies have honed an incredible suite of tools and toys used only to invisibly show you ads and influence your perception, all while you have no idea who is paying for that influence.
What people call fake news, that is actually advertising. And that advertising costs a lot of money because they have to pay for people to produce all these ads and to produce these pages and to get the bots to make them liked so that they are at the top of the algorithm and they show up as for real, as trending topics or the like, and then the national news media picks it up too.
Both social media and elections are inherently undemocratic when popularity can be purchased. Recently, Mark Zuckerberg placed a full-page ad in the New York Times touting his supposed commitment to, quote, protecting our community from election interference.
We will expand our partnerships with election commissions around the world. We already work with electoral commissions in many countries.
A for-profit media corporation, accountable to no one on Earth, claims it is working with multiple governments around the world to ensure the integrity of elections. Facebook sells enough power over our populace that it feels capable of ensuring the integrity of elections.
In the next year, We will more than double the team working on election integrity. In total, we'll add more than 250 people across all of our teams focused on the security and safety of our community.
Facebook had never publicly spoken of an internal election integrity team prior to September 2017, but now claims the team will double in size. If it actually existed, it's been operating extra-legally and in the shadows, proving Facebook is fully aware of its massive impact on elections and its need for oversight, yet continues to offer all of its same products.
What the platforms, and Facebook isn't the only one, are seeming to say is, don't bother us with government intervention here. We are going to regulate ourselves. That is not enough. It is not enough. There need to be consequences.
According to Facebook, microtargeting will now allegedly have limited human involvement when ads target, quote, politics, religion, ethnicity, or social issues. But that just means microtargeting will continue. When they petitioned the FEC years ago, Facebook merely sought to avoid regulation, but now they're trying to anoint themselves as a private replacement FEC.
Question about whether Facebook is asking to be a private FEC is a really salient question, because the universe of what they're willing to do is insufficient, given what we now know about how much intervention there has been in the election. It's unreasonable to expect that Facebook will expend all their resources to do that on every ad.
Facebook and Google spent the entire 2016 US election cycle near exclusively courting Republican candidates. But if the entire process is designed to be secretly exploitative, it doesn't matter who is currently doing the exploiting. The system itself needs to change. Facebook's brazen proposal to privately and single-handedly police its own systems will do little to change Silicon Valley's deceitful habits, and with no punishment awaiting their dishonesty, we're forced to trust what they say. The FEC has again opened a short period of public comment on proposed rule updates, but Lee Goodman's success in limiting public comment to foreign money again avoids the larger issue of internet political ad regulation.
So I just kind of want to understand the logic before I leap to reopening it. Because if we're doing so for the stated purpose of addressing foreign national advertisements, we can discuss that for a minute, but I'm more concerned with how we're going to impact on American citizens who communicate on the internet. And I'm not for reopening the 2006 exemptions with respect to American citizens.
Senators Mark Warner and Amy Klobuchar have now stepped up to fill the huge legislative gap with the Honest Ads Act. Unfortunately, Facebook and Google directly and extensively lobbied lawmakers to dampen the impact of the proposed bill.
The role Facebook plays in election goes beyond any one campaign, any one country.
The bill is co-sponsored by John McCain, who took credit for the 2002 Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, which was shredded by the 2010 Citizens United decision. Unlimited money still flows through our election systems due to Citizens United and other recent Supreme Court decisions, and though the Honest Ads Act may help online, at this point all paid political advertising is constitutionally questionable. For too long, social media titans have profited by silently auctioning their public influence to faceless bidders.
We're entering a moment where our democracy is being threatened. Without question, it's being threatened, and the electoral process is being threatened. And I don't think that people appreciate that.
There's still room to demand retroactively full disclosure for all past social media ad posts, and for internet companies to stop selling political ads completely. Voice your support for new legislation before Silicon Valley's privatization of democracy destroys it completely, even though it may already be too late.